Welcome in, everyone. Today we're going deep on essentialism. Have you heard of it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a fascinating concept.
It really is. It's based on this book by Greg McKeown. And it all comes down to this pretty intriguing idea. What if we could achieve more by actually doing less?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It kind of goes against everything we're told these days. Like always be hustling, always be busy.
Yeah, like busyness is some kind of badge of honor.
This is UnitiQ. Please subscribe to this channel and like the video. It is important for us and for YouTube algorithms.
But McKeown is saying, hold on, what if that's actually holding us back?
Makes you think, so many people are just overwhelmed, right? Their schedules are packed, their to-do lists are never ending.
And they just feel like they're constantly treading water, never really getting ahead.
Yeah, and that's where essentialism comes in. The book is all about figuring out what truly matters, what's essential, and then you get ruthless about cutting out everything else.
It's like decluttering, but for your life.
Exactly. The book even uses this analogy of an overstuffed closet.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. We hold on to clothes just in case, even though we never wear them.
Right. And McKeown says we do the same thing with our tasks, our commitments. We say yes out of guilt or obligation, and then we end up drowning in a sea of stuff that doesn't even matter that much.
That's so true. I'm definitely guilty of that. But okay, I have a question. When you talk about making choices, I think a lot of people would say, wait, I don't choose most of this stuff. I have to do it.
That's a common feeling for sure, but it might not be entirely true. That's where this idea of learned helplessness comes in.
Oh, yeah, I was reading about that in the source material. What was it, like some kind of experiment with dogs?
Exactly. They were given electric shocks, and eventually they just gave up trying to escape, even when they could.
Even when there was a way out. That's wild.
The point is, when we're constantly bombarded with demands and pressures, we can start to feel powerless, like we have no control.
So it's like we just give up and go with the flow, even if that flow is taking us somewhere we don't want to go.
Right. And we might even start to tell ourselves, well, this is just how it is. I have to do this. I have no other choice.
So how do we break free from that? How do we regain our sense of agency? How do we learn to choose again?
One simple thing you can try is paying attention to your language. How often do you say, I have to do something versus I choose to do it?
Oh, interesting.
Even if it's something you don't love, there's power in reframing it as a choice.
I never thought about it that way, but just saying those phrases out loud, yeah, like I can feel a difference.
I have to feel so heavy, but I choose to. Even if it's for something tough, well, at least you're in the driver's seat,
It's like taking back some control. Instead of being reactive, you're being proactive.
And that's a key part of essentialism. It's about actively deciding what you want to focus on, what really matters to you, and then having the guts to let go of the things that don't.
So it's about being more intentional with our time and energy, not just blindly slashing our to-do list, but carefully choosing what we keep on it.
Exactly. And a great example of this in action is Southwest Airlines.
Oh, yeah. Southwest, what was it? They decided to only do one thing really, really well.
They focused on getting people from point A to point B, efficiently, affordably. That was it.
And it totally worked. While other airlines were trying to be everything to everyone, Southwest just kept things simple.
They understood that trying to do everything would just dilute their efforts. So they made these strategic trade-offs.
It makes you wonder why we all feel this pressure to complicate things,
Yeah.
right? To do more, to be more.
Well, there's this whole idea that we can have it all. And I think that can be a really alluring, but ultimately misleading concept.
And that actually reminds me of the Continental Airlines example from the book. They tried to copy Southwest's model, simplify, focus, but they couldn't quite let go. They ended up with this mishmash of strategies, and it just didn't work.
Oh yeah, Continental. They lost millions, didn't they?
It's a pretty clear example of how trying to do too much can totally backfire, even with good intentions. So how do we avoid falling into that trap ourselves? How do we step back from all the chaos and noise of everyday life and figure out what really deserves our focus?
Well, McKeown has this interesting suggestion. He talks about the importance of escaping.
Escaping. Okay, that sounds a little dramatic.
Not like running away, but creating space for intentional boredom.
Boredom. That sounds kind of counterintuitive when we're talking about productivity.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. We're constantly bombarded with information, notifications, demands on our time. It's almost impossible to think straight with all that noise.
Yeah, it's like our brains are always on.
Exactly. But when we create space to disconnect, and I mean really disconnect, we give our minds a chance to wander, to process, to make connections.
It's like hitting the reset button, allowing ourselves to see the big picture without all those distractions.
And it's something that a lot of brilliant minds have done throughout history, like Newton, Einstein. They deliberately sought out solitude and quiet time.
Huh, so you're saying scheduling time to be bored is actually a productivity hack. I like that. What else?
McKeown also talks about the power of journaling, but with a twist. He suggests writing less. Like, just focus on the most important insights of the day.
Less is more. It seems like that's becoming a bit of a theme here. First escaping to think, now writing less to gain clarity. What else can help us figure out what's truly essential?
Well, this one might surprise you. Play.
Play. Wait, I thought we were talking about being productive here.
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. Our sources suggest that play is actually crucial for creativity, problem solving, and reducing stress.
Really? Okay, I'm intrigued.
Think about companies like Google or Pixar. They're famous for having these playful work environments, right? And there's a reason for that. They recognize that when people feel safe to experiment, to be silly, to think outside the box, well, they come up with better ideas.
So it's like play is actually brain food for creative thinking.
Exactly. It helps us break free from those rigid patterns and tap into this more imaginative, playful mindset.
Maybe I need to schedule some more playtime into my day. And speaking of things we often neglect, let's not forget about rest.
Yes, rest. It's so important. But we often treat sleep like this luxury, something we squeeze in if we have time left over.
Definitely guilty of that.
But it's a huge mistake. Sleep deprivation has this massive impact on how well our brains work. It's like, driving drowsy is just as dangerous as driving under the influence.
Yeah. Scary thought.
Well, there's a reason for that. Lack of sleep literally impacts our ability to think clearly.
I've actually been trying to get more sleep lately, and yeah, I have to say, I do feel a difference. I feel sharper, more focused during the day.
It's amazing what a good night's sleep can do. It's like hitting the recharge button for our brains and our bodies.
So what I'm hearing is that all these things we often see as non-productive, like play, rest, even boredom, they're actually essential for helping us achieve our goals.
Exactly. They help us figure out what our goals should be in the first place, and they give us the energy and mental clarity to pursue them effectively.
This is so interesting, but I have to ask, once we've figured out what's essential, how do we actually get rid of the rest? That feels like the hardest part.
It definitely can be. But the good news is there are tools and techniques to help us with that.
Oh, good. Tell me more.
So we're talking about decluttering, right? Not just your closet, but your whole life, your commitments, your to-do list, everything.
It's like we get so attached to things, even if they're not really doing us any good.
We do. But how do we let go? How do we make sure we're spending our time on the stuff that really matters?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Well, McKeown has this tool he calls the 90% rule. It's actually pretty simple.
Okay, I'm listening.
You ask yourself, on a scale of 0 to 100, how important is this to me? And anything that doesn't score at least a 90, it's out.
Wow, 90%. That's pretty high.
It might seem tough, but think about it. You deserve to be spending your time and energy on the things you're really passionate about. The things that light you up.
Yeah, but what if something is an 89? It's so close.
If it's not a resounding yes, it's probably just cluttering up your life, preventing you from focusing on what truly matters.
I like that. A resounding yes. That reminds me of the example from the book about the howling wolf shirt. Haha.
Oh, that shirt we all have in the back of our closet, just in case.
But we never wear it.
Exactly. It's that just in case thinking that creates so much clutter. And not just in our closets, in our lives too.
Yeah.
The 90% rule helps us cut through all that.
Make those tough decisions.
And free up space for what really matters.
Okay, that makes sense for stuff we control. But what about when other people are involved? Like saying no to a project at work or a favor from a friend, that can be so hard.
It is. We don't want to disappoint anyone.
Right, or seem unhelpful.
But that's where boundaries come in. And McKeown has a really interesting way of looking at it. He says it's not about being selfish. It's about recognizing that saying yes to the wrong things, well, that can actually lead to more regret down the line.
So it's not just about protecting our time, but also our energy and our sanity, probably.
For sure. And it's about understanding that saying no to a request doesn't mean you're saying no to the person. You can still be supportive, You just might not be able to commit to that particular thing at that particular time.
Yeah, I like that. It's like separating the decision from the relationship.
Exactly. And often, the people who really care about us, they'll get it. They'll respect our boundaries.
Right. So let's say we've decluttered our stuff. We're getting better at saying no, setting boundaries. But how do we make sure we're actually focusing on the right things, the things that are truly essential?
That's where essential intent comes in. It's about having this clear, concrete goal, not just some vague aspiration.
Okay, I'm following you.
Think about it this way. Which of these statements feels more actionable to you? End world hunger, or build 150 homes in the lower 9th Ward?
Oh, I see what you mean. They're both great goals. But that second one, you can actually picture it. You can see what success looks like.
Exactly. It's specific. It's tangible. It passes the how will I know when I've achieved this test. And that clarity is so important for staying focused and motivated.
So it's like essential intent is our compass. It helps us navigate through all the noise and make choices that are aligned with our ultimate destination. But even with a clear goal in mind, things don't always go smoothly, right?
Of course not. There are always obstacles, challenges along the way.
Life happens.
Exactly. And that's why it's not enough to just identify what's essential. We also need to figure out how to eliminate those obstacles and prepare for those challenges ahead of time.
Because if we don't, we're just setting ourselves up for failure.
McKeown uses this great analogy in the book. It's about these Boy Scouts who are hiking to their campsite. But some of the scouts are lagging behind, slowing everyone down. The leader tries all these different solutions, but the one that works best is actually super simple. He just redistributes the weight in their backpacks.
Ah, so it's about finding the root cause of the problem, not just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Exactly. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And part of that is anticipating potential problems and having a plan to deal with them before they arise.
Oh, like building in buffers. I'm so bad at that. I always try to cram too much into my day.
We all do it. It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking we can do it all perfectly, on time.
Yeah.
But that's just not realistic. Things happen. We need to build in some wiggle room.
So we've identified what's essential. We've eliminated what's not. We've prepared for potential obstacles. What's next? How do we actually put all this into practice and start seeing results?
Well, this is where small wins and routine come in. Our culture loves the idea of overnight success, right? But the truth is, real achievement, meaningful achievement, it's built on consistent incremental progress over time.
Yeah, it's like that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly. And the book is this great example about the Richmond Police Department. They were trying to tackle this issue of recidivism. And instead of going for these big sweeping changes, they focused on small, positive actions, like rewarding kids for doing good deeds.
It's about focusing on the little things, right? Those small wins that add up over time.
And over time, those small wins made a huge difference. Crime rates actually went down significantly. It's a great reminder that we don't need to make these drastic changes overnight. We just need to be consistent.
Consistency, that's key. And that's where routine comes in, right?
Think about Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer.
Yeah, of course.
He had this visualization routine he did every single day. He'd mentally rehearse the perfect race over and over again. That consistency, that discipline, it helped him achieve incredible things.
It's amazing what we can accomplish when we commit to those small actions, day after day.
Absolutely. It's about building momentum, one small win at a time.
This is all so inspiring, but I have to admit, I'm still a little intimidated by the idea of actually putting it all into practice. It feels like such a big shift.
It is a shift, but you don't have to do it all at once. Start small.
Yeah.
Pick one area of your life where you feel stuck or overwhelmed and just apply one of these principles. See what happens.
Yeah, you're right. One step at a time. I can do that. So I think if I had to sum up everything we've talked about with essentialism, it's about making conscious choices, about where our energy goes.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that our time, our energy, it's limited. We can't do it all. So we have to be really thoughtful about what we choose to prioritize.
Otherwise, we're just running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Pretty much. Reacting to other people's agendas instead of focusing on our own.
And I think that starts with really understanding what's essential to you. Not what you think you should be doing or what other people expect of you, but what genuinely lights you up, what aligns with your values and goals.
Yeah, it's about taking that time to reflect, to ask yourself, if I could only do a few things really, really well, what would those be?
That's a great question. I need to ask myself that more often. But once you have an answer, then comes the hard part, right? Letting go of everything else.
It's definitely not easy. But I like how you framed it earlier. It's not just about saying no. It's about saying a more powerful yes to the things that are truly important.
Right, it's a trade-off. Every time we say yes to something, we're also saying no to something else.
Exactly. And the key is to make sure we're saying yes to the things that align with our essential intent and no to the things that are just distractions.
Or obligations that we feel pressured to take on, even if they don't really resonate with us. And this isn't just a one-time decision, right? It sounds like essentialism is an ongoing process.
Definitely. It's about constantly evaluating and adjusting, checking in with yourself and asking, is this the best use of my time and energy? And being willing to change course if needed.
It's like being the editor of your own life, huh? You're not just passively accepting what comes your way, you're actively shaping the narrative.
I like that, the editor of your own life. And it's a pretty powerful feeling when you start to take control that way.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about choice, about escaping and making time for reflection, about play and rest, the importance of eliminating the non-essential and setting boundaries. So much good stuff. As we wrap up, what's one thing you'd challenge our listeners to do today to start applying these ideas?
That's a good question. I think if you're feeling overwhelmed, a good place to start is to just think about one thing you could eliminate from your life right now.
Just one thing.
Just one. It could be a commitment you've made that's no longer serving you, a task on your to-do list that you could delegate, or maybe even just delete, or even just a piece of clutter in your home.
It's about creating some space, right?
Exactly, a little breathing room, so you can start to focus on what really matters.
It's not about doing less for the sake of doing less. It's about doing less so you can do more the things that light you up, the things that bring you joy, that make a difference.
That make you feel alive.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired.
Me too.
I hope our listeners feel the same way. And as you go about your day, I want to leave you with this question. What seemingly non-essential thing in your life might actually be holding you back from achieving your true potential? Think about it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into essentialism.
Thank you for listening. That's all for today. If you like what we do, please like and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode.